served then with foreclosure papers because the title search, because of the error, the one-letter spelling error, came up as clean. And it was a huge mess for this owner of the house. So there's another example of the consequence, just a one-letter spelling error. Number 6, which one of the following sentences best reflects effective writing for the workplace? What's wrong with A? It's vague. Very good. Because what area? Like right here, this room, this part of the building, the whole building, and what's going to happen to the people? Yeah, they're going to be smacked on the back of the head, fined, fired, given an evil eyeball. What's wrong with B? Okay, the choice of words. My son loved the thesaurus. And I would read things that he wrote, and it didn't make any sense, but he used, 12-letter words. So as he would pick words that he didn't know the meaning of, but it said it was a synonym, but in the context of the sentence, it's, yeah, you know this. You use a long part of speech as well. Yeah. And in business, we need to write so that the average reader knows what it means. I did some work at Ohio State where we were looking at word choice in memos. And I was shocked at a junior engineering class. They were given this memo that said, please retain the records until you have the requisite information. About 33% of these junior engineering students knew what retain meant and knew what requisite. Sad, but that's the way it is. So if we need to make sure that we're writing with our vocabulary that meets our audience, otherwise they're going to goof up our message or our directions. So give me another word, an everyday word for intrinsic, because when we did this in the class, about a third of them knew what intrinsic was, and we had about over 8 different definitions of the word.
Necessary.
I'm sorry?
Necessary.
Necessary. Okay. Any other?
Yeah.
Internal. Like intrinsic and extrinsic rewards. Okay. Give me an everyday word for labyrinth. Maze. And then disentangle the word.
No.
What should it be?
Not there. Disentangle.
Okay, but give it to me.
Untangle.
So if we just use everyday language, the internal maze of wire means untangled. It means untangling. Okay. It's much easier to understand. What's wrong with C? Well, I know there's something wrong with it because you're reading it 2 and 3 times to figure out what it's saying. So right there is a problem. Give me that sentence in everyday words. Empty the container. Same thing with D. Give me that in everyday language. Turn the lights out when you leave. And sometimes, and I know Fred and I discussed this in the book, I tell people write the way you talk. Turn the lights out when you leave. We don't talk like that. That's not our natural voice. And in business, we need to make writing so it's easy to read, easy to understand. Nobody has to work hard to read it. Nobody has to try and guess at what they think you mean. This junior engineering class, many of them thought this was talking about fire.
Get a question over here. Purpose and audience.
Yes.
What's our purpose? Who's our audience? What's the appropriate voice for that purpose and audience? So in this situation, taking into account my purpose of getting information across clearly and quickly to this group of individuals, I need to be very concise. For a different purpose and audience, I agree 100%. Word choice voice needs to be modified.
And I agree with that. It's just that sometimes I think my students think they need more of a sculpt. That whole revising and editing, that's when I go. Because I may not use, I may use they to refer back to something singular the way I talk. But it's not grammatically correct. So when I go through that last stage of the writing process, that's where I'll look at
but at least you'll spell they T-H-E-Y as opposed to T-H-A-Y like half our students do. The voice and the
Thank you,
vocabulary,
Fred.
our voice and the word choice, it's, those of you who used to subscribe to Newsweek magazine, if you think about it, the last page was always alternating weeks, Anna Quinlan or George Will. Significantly different ways of writing. George Will's, I'm not sure who George Will's audience was, but it was laborsome for me to get through a George Will piece. Because of, what is he saying? I mean, it made me feel stupid. Quinlan, for me, an engaging writer, but she spoke to an audience in a normal use of language that everyday people could understand. I'm sure George Will has his audience. It just wasn't me. And obviously Newsweek felt it was okay to have the two alternating each week.
And what's wrong with